Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Hello. Uh, we were talking about personality earlier, yesterday, but today I'm going to change gears and something that came up recently for me to do, you know. So it's like uh, um, what would we consider significant events in our life in case we want to do something like a memoir, uh, the important things that you want to leave to your family or as a legacy, whatever. Okay? We may not be different industries, but one of the great people doing all this, but it's interesting, right? To really think what are the significant events that I would like to leave to my family or friends to understand what was going on with us. Hello, Anjali. So I was kind of playing around that, and a lot of things really popped up, especially with my experience as a physician and what is my take on health and wellness. That's I have a lot to say. And what would you do if you get sick when you get up? What are the things you can do? That was a significant life event for me. And then when I was really got into the yoga and really took it to the um, kind of significant depth for me. That left a lot of things change, a lot of perspectives change, a lot of happiness came around, a lot of prevention of the suffering and all that, and then massive attraction towards the ancient wisdom and all that. So I thought it would be fun. It would be nice to explore all of us to see what are the important things that I would like to be in my memoir in case I want to leave it, to the uh, whoever coming down the line. Okay. Uh, so it's not like stating something we are great or anything, but it's kind of reflecting on our life, really going on that, and then making people think like when you are alive, what is that you want to know from those events? What is that you want to discuss with your friends and family, colleagues? Uh, and we did an exercise with our own little group, and it was very fun because people, when they deliberately went on to think about it, they came up with one or two that are very important for people to realize, right? So I thought I will explore this in one of my rooms. So here I am. Okay. Uh, as far as I'm concerned, what came up were my bout with that serious illness when I was stroked out in 2014, and how I came out of it within a month, even though it was a dense stroke and it was like a hemiplegia. Some of the weakness is still there, but I can use the left side very well. I can walk, I can do a lot of stuff by myself and all that. But learned a lot about how to recover from that kind of illness using both modern medicine and also ancient wisdom. I used micro yoga, deep breathing, and being in the present, which were my habits before, but then they came to my aid very well. So I kind of developed much more deeper insights into that by studying. I'm still studying the ancient wisdom. So you can never say we have completely mastered that kind of sciences. So, but then whatever the insights that came really resulted in something very good for health wise. mental peace, and the capacity to deal with a lot of suffering and get over the suffering, and discovering the joy within. That was the biggest thing, right? So that's one thing. The other thing was coming from India to America. Really, that was a significant event, and it was a cultural shock at the time because it was 81. I think I came in here, and India was still not completely uh, like America now. Now, if I go back, it's like it doesn't feel any different, really. Same internet, same TV, same kind of all the kids dressed in jean and all that, right? So not that much different. I kind of adapted to this, but I was very sad to see that our real culture kind of go down. You know, uh, so that was another event. And then going back, I was uh, one of the significant life events for me was getting into the medical school by passing that very competitive medical entrance exam. Right? I remember I was finishing my intermediate. Fortunately, I was topper in my 10th class, and we got one of the two people who got more than 400 marks out of 600. That was a big deal at the time. We were the big stars. And we were geared to compete for that exam. And I think thousands of kids were competing. And I was studying with me, three other friends, and my sister. Of the five people, four people got into that medical school. So, and it was local. It was very convenient for us. We were walking home every day to have lunch with our mom's cooking, and we stayed at her house. So very little was spent on that. Government gave us the all the education. That was the norm at the time, right? But that was kind of big life event because for 1.5 year we focused on gathering all the material, mastering the material for the third entrance exam. So I would say that, And then further going back into my life, what I discovered was I learned what I call heartfulness with my mother. She was uh, she didn't. I think she was. She didn't read much. She didn't go to school or anything because she was married very, very young, actually. And then my father died after she had seven kids. He died suddenly at the age of 55 or something. So she had a lot of problems, but the way she raised us, especially I know I was the last child, right? Seventh child. She showed me what is heartfulness was. Never raised her hand, never took a harsh word, never expected us to be something for her to love. It was unconditional love, absolute heartfulness. After I learned what is heartfulness through the ancient wisdom, I knew I was always in that because of my mom, how she showed that. So it was a wonderful exposition of not asking to you to be something to love you. Okay, she loved no matter what it is. These are the life. These are the things that I kind of said these are my big life events. I would put it in a book if it is there to be considered. Number one was that heartfulness. Number two was competing for get into that medical school and the medical school curriculum that went very well. And then suddenly shifting and coming to this country and what was the problems. I was a student of cultures, by the way. I was studying what is the Eastern culture, what's the Western culture, what's the Chinese culture, what's the African culture, or communist culture, like that. I was fascinated by that, right? And then I compared even at the time uh, Gandhi to somebody here, like Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy, things like that. Uh, so that was fun to do that. And we had a film club in our medical school. Some of our friends put it together. They used to give me invitations to many of the international films that were pretty good, they presented them separate screen for just for our members. So I got to see many Japanese movies, Chinese movies, German movies like that. So it became fascinating to understand how those major filmmakers were producing lot of stuff that is really um, opened our consciousness, right? So, uh, and then after going to the medical practice here for about 40 years, then I discovered this company called PAPAL, which is based on the philosophy of how can we have this proactive wellness in our lives. The definition of proactive wellness was you be strong in the body, sharp in your mind, but have a heart, holistic development, and also have a spiritual inclination towards that. So when you have the wellness in all those departments, then I call it proactive wellness that you could do by being proactive about whatever you do with your health. For example, you don't have to wait till something happens to you, but you can check up a lot of things, not just a preventive exam, but a comprehensive exam, and also knowing what are the things that have come that we could really understand and maybe not let them manifest later on in your life. Okay, the molecular biology, genome, for example, these kind of things we can do now, right? And understanding yoga, Ayurveda, and Advaita, that made a huge difference for me. You can keep your mind quiet. You can be in the solitude of mind every day. You can be doing yoga, which I do every day, and you don't have to take medications, which I don't, and you can sleep very, very soundly, which I do. So all those benefits I'm passing on to my patients, to my friends and family, and here also, right? You don't have to get stressed out. You don't have to be burned out if you understand the ancient wisdom very well. So I thought some of the things that I had experienced in my life, those life events, could be shared with the other people, and the people will be happy, uh, to read about them, and then they may have the same experiences, or they may have better, and they can also share. That was a nice conversation we had, more like a party-like atmosphere, right? And people were reluctant to begin in the beginning, but then once they participated, things came out that really surprised us, that we never really gave them that much importance. So, like somebody said, for example, I have a life-changing experience when I went to the Himalayas or Manasar or something like that. And then everybody fascinated to listen to that kind of experience. And somebody said there was Sedona here in Arizona, how beautiful that was. And like that, right? So I thought that was fun to explore. So, Anjali, you want to come and say something about it? If you have any comments, let's invite her. Let's see. Hi, Alka. How are you? Alma. I was just talking about uh, a game we played the other day. The game was well, like what kind of major things that happened in your life that you would like to write about and talk about and leave a memory about that in your life. So I was enumerating the things that happened to me. For me, more like this disease that I had, very bad stroke in 2014, and how I got out of it within a month. I began to walk after that. Nobody, I thought I thought I was a freak. I was not. I was just using modern medicine and also ancient wisdom with a form of micro yoga, breathing, and being in the present, which were my practices. So they came to my aid when I was down and out. But then they also got my function back, which was very rare. Many of the stroke victims, they become disabled after 6 months, within 6 months, 50% of them. And then most of them don't function in the jobs and all that. But I also not only got my speech back, I also got my function of the arms that I lost, everything, right? So that was a major life event. And probably I should say BFL is my company now, which is an online wellness company I found in 2020, probably close to that, and have been providing stress and burnout thing. That's one thing. And if you go back, when I came to this country in 1981, that was a major milestone because it has uprooted me from the in India, and then coming to this. It was a culture shock at the time. India was not having TV, not having the cell phones, internet, and all that, right? And also, I came from a small town, so we are more like a close to the Indian culture, and that has changed after that. After I went back in 1985, I saw such a shock there. So much change happened there too. And then before that, I was talking about this medical entrance exam. I took it in back in 1973 or 74 to get into the medical college, which was a huge endeavor. We studied without really doing anything like seeing a movie or anything for about a year or so to compete, because there were 45,000 kids are competing for 150 seats. Uh, so happened we got it. I got it. My sister got it. My three other friends of mine got it too. So that's another life event we talked about. And then as I look back into my real childhood and very small child, my mother was very instrumental in giving us heartfulness. How can you be full of love without any conditions? Hmm? That really happened. That really helped a lot to me. Now I realize the value of it. What is conditional love? What is unconditional love? How can somebody be not be dominated by the intellect like we are now, but then understand the place and be in conscious thought, but at the same time be in that heartfulness. That means you are establish yourself in the heart, and you act everything through that, not through assessment and all that. Okay, so that's what I talked about earlier. Okay, so the importance of having this kind of exercise is we may not be such a great people to write a memoir or anything like that, or we may not want to do that. But that exercise itself brings back all those things that we may not have thought about or reflected about, and then put them together, and then say, okay, I should have done this way, I should have done this, or I could relate to somebody, or I could tell this to people, and they may learn something that they may not have learned, or they may give a different perspective, then I can learn from them. So this is not about um, judging us, this is not about assessing us, it's about just ruminating on that thoughts, on that events that happened, and what kind of result that was on us. Okay, I would welcome you all do that. Actually, this reflection on the everyday, reflection on the certain time periods, or some things happen, like a good or bad can happen at the time. That's a very good healthy exercise. without getting worried, without getting angry, without going to all those emotional turmoil. If you can stop and reflect and see what happened here, what did I miss? Can I learn something for the future? Something like that is very healthy, I think. I'm not talking about psychological therapy sessions. I'm talking about individual assessment by ourselves and then reflecting on that. And if you reflect on the whole life, and the next question is, okay, I have all these experiences and all, but what is my purpose? Where I'm going? How my purpose evolved based on my experiences in the past? I think that was a very, very healthy thing to do. Then you'll have a purpose. You'll go towards that with all your resources, and you may have clarity. So, what is happening in your life, right? So that's what I think is a valuable thing about it. Um, for example, I have to say this because I really do sincerely uh, think that's the right thing. Uh, the ancient wisdom, as a modern physician, as I become more fascinated with the healing powers of the ancient health systems, just by understanding, just by being conscious, we can do a lot more things, right? There is a reason why I am not using any medications and being healthy like this is because uh, I don't have much conflicts or much tensions in my mind. That's because they talked about the purpose of a human life, any human being, is to really see who they are. They are not these thoughts and feelings that come and go. They're not just these bodies, physical bodies that may, go down and disease and die. But then they talked about this inner um, life energy or consciousness or soul or spirit or whatever you call it, that is the one which makes you human, which animates your mind and also your body, right? So the purpose of the human life is not to just survive, not to just eat and meet and sleep and get up and walk and do activity, or just to enjoy a little bit also. You can enjoy, but then if you do the same thing over and over again, the pleasurable thing will also become meaningless, right? That's what in our experience. But if you turn inward and if you really allow your mind to see what is going on inside, you will get a lot of insight about yourself and all that. So humans have that intelligence. Animals may not have it. So uh, that's why, as a human being, your main purpose in life is to turn inward and realize who you really are, what is your real nature is, that kind of thing. And that really makes external life not to be that a big deal. You can live simply, and at the same time you can find out about yourself by reflecting, by understand, by posing questions. What am I? Who am I? What is the real thing that lasts? What is the fulfillment that can we have? All those questions, right? And that was very fortunate for me. I was able to get into that kind of thing, so, and then when you really look at seriously, without belonging to any country or religion, then the human beings' responses are all same almost, right? Then you'll understand what are your limitations, what is the unlimited that is in you, and all that. Okay, so this kind of life events may be um, directing you towards that. But when you really do not note down the significance of it as they are happening, you may find that significance of that life event after it has passed. Okay, so this what they call was turning inward and doing is called dhyana, samadhi. What it is eventually you will slow down all your thoughts and you will come down to one thought, and you stay with one thought. That itself is very, very difficult. That is the dhyana. For that, you need to have concentration, focus of your mind. And then when you focus and concentrate and you're reflecting on whatever is happening, and then you understood and you discarded all the thoughts one by one, either positive or negative, and you come to stay on one thought. If you could do that, then you can go beyond it and get absorbed in that silence that is there. Okay, and that is very, very, very valuable, right? You got to experience it to see how beautiful that is. You won't have boredom, you won't have tiredness, you will have kind of an underlying joy coming from that. Okay, so these reflections eventually lead to that. Okay, but if you have something valuable you think that is to be put on paper for the future, um, I think that's very welcome, right? But even if you don't do it, if you just reflect on life, reflect on the events, reflect on the significant life events, and then really focus on what you learn, and that will be the wisdom. Experiencing is not the wisdom, but having an insight into that experience and getting the gist of it, the insight of it, and then you will see, for example, you want to know what is ego, and understanding that ego is made by us. It's like under shadow. It's not the real image. It's a false image. Then you may not be that egotistical. Once you identify what is ego and you see it in you, it drops. And that's really beautiful. Then you don't have to go through the travels of ego boosting or ego deflating and all that, right? So reflect daily, reflect once in a while, reflect deliberately on what had happened, but don't get stuck in the past, but just reflect. Okay, I have taken this, like for example, I said my mom was heartfulness defined, unconditional love. Everybody's mom is like that, I think. But then, specialty with her is she had wonderful, very, very rich life, and my father was alive. He was a big shot, but then suddenly he died, and then he did not take care of passing on all the wisdom because it was a sudden stroke, right? So he died, but then the way she gone through was like she has gone so much of suffering, but at the same time she has this natural tendency of giving anybody a broad smile and treating them kindly, giving them food. I've seen that all the time, and dealing with us, never in a harsh way, but then always accepting as we are. We don't have to do something. Okay? That kind of thing, when you reflect on that, uh, you automatically visit that heartfulness. You automatically feel that within yourself. So that is the importance of reflecting, just to understand where we are, where did we come from, and what is the importance of that, right? So reflection also can be maybe very casual reflection at the end of the day. You know, um, I was listening to Truly Julie earlier, and she was doing a progressive relaxation exercise, like So that's a very good thing. You relax from head to toe slowly. That is the component of the dead man's pose in yoga, which is called the corpse pose, the shavasana they call it. You kind of lie down on the floor or sit in the chair with your back upright, and then progressively relax from toe to head slowly, okay, with the breathing and all that, and then that would actually unwind you a little bit, and then immediately focus on, if you have to, and say, what happened today, and then go to the day, visit the day in your mind, and see any of them are, suppose you were insulted by a colleague and you got angry. Fine, just reflect on that. Find out what was that made me so angry. So this one, then you may find maybe your ego is acting and it's not that a big deal. Then you can identify that. Or maybe it's like a is unkind, and then I'm conditioned to react to that, then reflect on that. And that kind of self-awareness of what went on within you and then getting rid of it is a very healthy practice. You can do that. You don't have to consult anybody. So reflect every day. Reflect at the end of the week, or reflect on the end of the week. Maybe Sunday you're starting the week, for example. You reflect on what's going to come in that week, what is your plan and all that, and have the priorities right. And then, so if something happens, you don't want to react right away, but you want to take some time and think about it, and that's also reflection, right? So these are minor things on a daily basis. But what I'm talking about is they may be life events that happened in your past, um, and then you can visit that and then find out what was the lesson. Did you learn it? Are you putting it in life, real, and all those things? Um, Spiritual teachings of Esther here, way back, was like. Uh, it is about showing you how your thought constructed your entire personality and all that. Okay, that's one thing. But also giving you opportunities to really see whether it is correct or not and get out of it. Like a liberation, they call it, right? That's a big deal. Self-liberation. Liberation from what? From the sufferings or joys of this world. And then how do you do that? All that comes into this. Paying attention to your inward self by yourself, and not saying that I'm going to be uh, judging myself, or I'm going to um, elevate myself. None of it. Just passively observe whatever happened. That kind of reflection is very good. And this exercise, if you do once in a while, probably you will learn a lot out of that. And this is not about a commentary from somebody. What it is suppose you have been reading a lot about other views. That may come into you as a lesson or something. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you kind of not have any past readings or past experience, but then you are paying attention to something with your own eyes, not contaminated by accumulated knowledge. Then that will reveal itself in a full form. Then you can take it for what it is. Then take that insight and then employ that in your life. That will be beautiful for you. Okay. There was a slide also I was publishing the other day. J. Krishnamurti said, if you want to know something, if you want to read something, you want to come there fresh eyes, not with accumulated knowledge. That's where all this book reading, everything kind of take you away, because it's somebody else's experience. Then you can learn the techniques of the external things, like a technologies, like somebody working on a program and all, they can do that. But when it comes to your inner self, you got to be beginner's mind, fresh eyes, not contaminated by anything. Okay, that kind of thing is very, very healthy. I don't know what happened. This thing got into me, and then this became a very nice play when we gather around. It's a long lost friends, or somebody who can relax at a party. You can get invited to people's place and have dinner. Instead of talking about politics, he was talking about wars and all that. We kind of thought this will be interesting. So the question was very simple. Name one life event in your life, that you think could leave some lesson or some fun fact or something like that for the other people. And initially, people were reluctant to expose themselves. Understandable, right? They don't want to reveal all their inner. But then you can continue that when you're alone, or when you're with your close friends or wife or somebody like that, right? So And having the reflection like that also gives the other person to understand you better, right? That is also there. How we have. So, like I said, my mom, heartfulness, my medical schooling, a major life event, because it was like out of 45,000, 150 seats were competing, right? And then, so the dedication, everything, there was nothing else mattered for 1.5 years. I didn't see a single movie. Can you believe that? And then we were completely dedicated to that. Then coming to the country, cultural shock, and going through the medical field for 40 years, understanding what is wellness, what is illness, and all that. And then establishing this BA PAL, which is the combination of modern medicine and ancient wisdom itself. These are number of life events I talked about. So it doesn't have to be a preaching lesson to anybody. It's just a relating of what was my life event, happened, how did I come out of it. For example, my stroke and recovery from the stroke, definitely there are lessons for the doctors, for the nurses, for the therapists, for the patients. There are so many lessons, that would enhance how to recover from any illness. For example, my sister, she's now 80 years, I think 80, 81 years. She had this severe sciatica pain the other day. And she wasn't doing anything. She was just standing and going around, and then it happened. And the spasmodic pain was very severe. So when I talked to her a few hours later, she told me how severe it was, and then what she should do and all that. And when she was talking to me, I could detect how painful she was suffering. Then I kind of got her to get a scan done. Obviously, there's a nerve compression, and it was very tough in the beginning. But then 3, 4 days later, with some therapy, some TENS unit, some massage and rubbing oil, all those things helped her. Also, of course, they gave some pain medications. But then I kind of been talking to her about this philosophy for a long time. So we kind of entered into that too. How does a chronic pain patient uh, recover from that? What are the modalities that you want to employ, right? So I talked to her. Pain is inevitable, whatever the condition is, but your suffering doesn't have to be definite. It can be optional. That means you choose to have the degree of suffering from the pain. It doesn't matter. So there's something like if you take uh, big sages and all that. Uh, One sage had a sarcoma on his elbow, and sarcoma by definition is a cancer that grows in the blood vessels and all that. It grows pretty fast, and it is so painful. It's one of the most painful conditions, right? But he is so detached from his body and from his mind and established in that real self of his, he did not show that suffering at all. So you can see body as an object and all this happening in his body. If you cannot do that much, the basic thing is psychosomatic is suppose you are diagnose something, you may not have that much about it at the time, but then your worry, your concentration, your concern, all that makes your mind secrete so many stress hormones, then you will be suffering from that. So you have to detach yourself from that. That's a big deal. But you deal with the patient as they are capable, right? So I told her, take the medication, take all these things, know the diagnosis, understand, and then also don't do extra work, take the most extra rest, and rest for the mind. See, that is where I can teach them just to be aware of themselves, or do the meditation deliberately, or employ the conscious thought. I have different varieties of how can work with your mind. Um, I have the luxury, I enjoy the silence in my mind all the time. And I use the conscious thought, like I'm talking a subject to now. I can use the thought to communicate. But after it's done, I can completely be silent. That's a blessing. Okay. But anybody can have it if you understand what is the projection of thought and how you can be free of that and then be liberated from that in your natural state of silence. That's a surprising thing, right? Many people don't know that our silence is our natural state. We kind of project the thought and build up the thought network, and then we want to get rid of it. That's the problem. But if you are not in that network of thought, but use it consciously and finish it off, you don't have to do any meditation. So you are always in the silence. This is called manonasha. You can look it up if you want to. So, reflecting, understanding, and using that insight later on is a very healthy practice. But just because you have reflected doesn't mean you got to settle down in that and then, for example, I have done that competitive exam, I got entrance. I don't have to have ego about it. I don't have to have pride about it. I don't have to think I'm superior than other people. Okay, I worked hard. I had the chance. I also luck maybe. I got it, but doesn't mean I'm superior than other people. I may be superior in that scale, in that knowledge, but as human beings, I'm not. Okay, actually, we are all one. Okay, so do the life event reflection as a hobby, as something that you can. Uh, I'm not talking about therapists. I'm not talking about psychological. That I'm not. That is all just employing the mind again. I'm talking about beyond that. You go and be aware of this and what they played a role in your life and how you have evolved into all that. Okay. Uh, Hopefully that makes some sense. We talked about 45, 47 minutes so far. So anybody wants to come up and talk, I'll be happy to answer any questions or share with your experiences. Alma is working. She sent me a message. She, so okay, I will be taking leave now. Hopefully, it's not not nonsense I talked. It made some sense for you all, but reflecting on the life events is a very healthy thing. Do that and learn that, and then enjoy the life events, and then that will add to your life. Thank you.